Welcome everyone, this is Garrett Green Gaming, and today I want to talk about the next generation consoles. So both Xbox and PlayStation recently came out and gave us some insight, some talking points on the next console they are developing. Especially Xbox in this situation, but we will get to that here in a second. Even Nintendo has just released their next gen console, so people are talking about the next generation right now. And it seems like the sentiment I'm hearing is that it's too early for the next generation of consoles. If the next generation consoles were to come out today, yeah, that would be too early. But if we're talking about in a few years, like 2027 or 2028, no, I don't think that's too early at all. I think 2028 would be the sweet spot. I think that is the correct year to release the next gen consoles, especially for PlayStation. And 2028, if you look at the dates, would be 8 years since the PS5 was released. And 8 years would be the longest console generation of all time. If we're talking about since the PS1 era, 8 years would be the longest. The longest. So I don't agree that coming out in 2028 would be too early. Even 2027. 2027 would equal last console generation of 7 years. Um, I do believe 28 would be better. I do agree with that. I mean, obviously, things happen at the beginning of this generation and throughout this generation. There was the COVID, all that, chip shortages, all that stuff. So there was a longer cross-gen period and all that. So I understand that. That's why I would say one extra year, 2028 would be ideal. That's when I want the consoles to release. But this idea that if it were to release in 2027 or 2028, it's too early, I don't agree with that. And people will say, well, there's been no games this generation. We've had less games this generation and worse games this generation. Why we can't have a next gen console release already? We haven't had any games, and that is the biggest bullshit statement, biggest bullshit argument you can make about saying it's too early for a console generation. There's some other arguments that I would accept, but not that the fact that there's no games. That is completely untrue. That is completely false. In fact, I plan on doing a separate video down the road on this exact topic about the games. Because if you look at the actual games released through this generation, it's pretty similar to the other generations. Very similar in the amount of games released, maybe a little bit less. Obviously, games take much longer to make now. But what has offsetted that is there's much more studios making games. There is a lot more studios making games. So in reality, there is this very similar amount of games that have been made for this generation. And whether you believe this or not, in my opinion, the games are bigger and better than ever before. Bigger and better than ever before. If you took someone in like the 2010 era and you showed them Horizon Forbidden West and freaking whatever GTA 6 is going to be, and Spider-Man and the new Doom game and all these big AAA games that were actually good, if you show them games, show people from the 2010s all these incredible looking next gen games, Cyberpunk not the PS4 version of Cyberpunk, the version of Cyberpunk now. If you showed someone Cyberpunk from 2010, their minds would explode. They would explode. They would not be able to believe what they are seeing. So, yes, the games are bigger and better than ever, and there's still about the same amount of games that have been made this generation. So that argument, I cannot ever agree with. Now, there is an argument that I am more accepting of. It's the fact that there has been a longer cross-gen period. So I mentioned Horizon Forbidden West. That game was a PS4 game. Gran Turismo 7, a PS4 game. And these are games, Cyberpunk, another one, kind of. These are games that look amazing on PS5, on this gen, absolutely look incredible, but they can run at a lesser version on, the PS4 and Xbox One. So I understand that some of the best games made for this generation are technically playable on last generation. I can accept that. But I mean, the reality is those games play so much better on the new gen, on the next gen, on the current gen. They play so much better and they run at 60 FPS. And that is probably one of the key great things about this console generation. As much as people try to deny that 60 FPS is now the standard, 60 FPS is now the standard. This generation has made 60 FPS the standard on console. And in fact, I can no longer play games at 30 FPS. Those days are over for me. So I can no longer accept last gen performance. I can't. This current gen has lived up to the performance needed to make this next gen, in my opinion. For the most part, there's been games that have failed. There's been a handful of games that have released in a poor state, performing terribly, bugs and glitches and all that, and do not run at 60 FPS, like Dragon's Dogma and Starfield. A few other games that launched at 30. That was unacceptable, but that was a rare occasion. Only a handful of games did not launch at 60 FPS on console. Rockstar, I'm talking to you. GTA 6, listen up, okay? Listen up. Don't make that mistake. Anyway, so that's another point. It's a fair point. There's been a cross-gen period, but we're getting games at 60 now, okay? I've felt the next gen leap in that way, okay? Understandably, the graphics of these games have not made that huge leap that you would see in like the PS1 to PS2 to PS2 to PS3 era. But I mean, that's kind of unfair to point to that, because that's never going to happen again. Maybe. I'll get to that in a second, though. And that kind of brings me to the next point that I somewhat understand. It's the fact that, well, the problem is you can't really make a big enough leap to justify having a new gen come out this early. Well, maybe, but there's also some problems with that statement. Number one, we're still talking about 2 or 3 years away. So you don't know what the technology is going to be able to do in 2 to 3 years. So it's kind of hard for me to accept that argument. Also, look at PCs right now. PCs, the highest end PCs, are still running significantly better than consoles. So, I mean, there's clearly room to grow in that regard. And, people, and what I've been hearing from certain people that know what they're talking about, like Digital Foundry, they're thinking that, the next gen console still won't be able to match like the highest level of PCs. So there's still room to grow. There's always room to grow. And technology is still developing, which brings me to my next part of the technology. It's machine learning. It's AI. We are just at the beginning stages of the AI, at least the upscaling portion of that. I don't want to get into all the other aspects of AI, because that is a complete, huge, crazy rabbit hole, and I don't even know where I would begin with that. But just for the upscaling the graphics part, we're at the beginning stages of that, and with PlayStation and PSSR, where they're just now developing their own machine learning technology, that could actually create a huge leap that we didn't necessarily see from PS4 to PS5. PS5 to PS6 could even be a bigger leap than that because of the machine learning. So I don't necessarily agree that we've hit our ceiling in graphics and the next gen of performance. I still think we have a lot of room to grow, maybe an infinite amount of room to grow. Who knows? I never agree with those people that always try to say that technology is limited and we'll never see this or we'll never see that. Technology has always proved people wrong when we say that. We've always found a new technology that raises standards here and there. I remember people saying there wouldn't be another console generation. They've been saying that for like the last 3 console generations. And yet here we are. We keep making new PlayStations and it's great, and they keep getting better and better. But now I want to get into the Xbox part of this conversation because it's a completely different conversation to have when we talk about next gen. And I think the big question, the big talking point about the next Xbox is, will it be an actual console or will it be a PC? Will it be a hybrid of PC and console? And if it is a hybrid, is it going to have the best aspects of both? Is it going to have the worst aspects of both of these things? There is a lot of questions with this new Xbox, and it seems like they were hinting at some answers, but it was very vague. It was very vague. So Sarah Bond, one of the heads of Xbox, did a little video, and she kind of briefly talked about some of the aspects of the next Xbox. And I don't want to go over all of what she said because she didn't really answer my questions. She kind of just stated some things that we already kind of knew about and from some of the rumors. But I'm just going to go over my questions that I have about this next Xbox. Number one question for this next Xbox, and I think it's probably the most important thing that will actually make this an Xbox and not something that's just a PC or something completely different. The main question is, will you have your Xbox library ported over to this thing? Will you have your Xbox profile? Will you have your stats? Will you have your personal touch, your personal profile of your career on Xbox? Will it be able to be transported over to whatever this next thing is? Because unlike, the new Asus ROG Ally Xbox thing, that is not an Xbox. That is not an Xbox. It's not playing your Xbox library. Your Xbox library is not on that thing. It is not an Xbox. Now, for the next console, they're claiming that this next Xbox will have your whole library, and it will be native to the console. So, if that's true, that's huge. That will make this an Xbox. Now, there's still some questions within that, like, will it actually be a native will actually run these games natively on the box? Like, it's the file is uploaded into the Xbox and you're just playing it straight there? Or will it be like some type of emulation thing? And if it is emulated, will it have every aspect of that game in there, or will it be missing features and stuff because it's not the true native version? Those are huge questions, because if it's some shitty emulation that they're doing with your library, that is no-go. That is crap. That will be crap. So I expect this next Xbox to be able to natively run your library. And if not, it better be the best emulation we've ever had, and it better look like it's native. Another question will be like the power and the performance. How will it compare to the next PlayStation 6? Will it be stronger? Will it be weaker? How will it compare to PCs? If it's more of just a PC, like how high end of a PC will it be? I'm assuming it'd be like a mid-range PC that will have similar performance to the PS6. I think that is what is expected. I think the expectation is it has to at least hit the PS6 levels. So that one remains to be seen for sure. Now another one, this one is really convoluted to me, and I'm still kind of grasping at what all this means, is whether or not it will run PC versions of games or console versions of games, or if it's some mixture of both. But I'm assuming if, Xbox is going to have multiple storefronts that have PC games on them, there's not really going to be a reason for developers to make a console version for this new Xbox. It will just be the PC versions put onto the storefront. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, and that will also tie into whether, the games your Xbox library is native. Your Xbox games from past generations are native on this thing, because I feel like it's likely only going to run PC versions of games, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. That is still a huge open question to know. Also, the storefronts. Apparently, this thing is going to be able to have all the storefronts, and I think part of that question is, how much of a PC will this be? How open will it be? Will you just be able to browse, the internet and just go to all the different storefronts, or will they be like apps, kind of how the Xbox dashboard is now, where you got each game like in a row? Will you just be able to click on one of the box and it goes to like the Steam OS and then the Epic? So all of that is still up in the air, whether or not you will have all the storefronts. If Steam's going to even let you have like the Steam storefront on this box, that's still up in the air. Will all the storefronts let this happen? Will it just be internet websites you could just scroll through like a normal PC? All big questions. And then these last two questions I have are not so much questions, because I'm pretty sure on the answers. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. And I'm most sure that this will be an all digital machine, no physical disc. And I'm sorry, that is just a complete L. And, it's going to happen. I'm almost positive of that. The Xbox people are expecting it. Xbox already doesn't support physical discs very well right now. So I'm just assuming whatever this new Xbox is, it's going to be all digital and no disc compatibility at all. And I'm sorry, I'm a physical guy. That's just a complete L. Physical is important because of the options that it gives you. You have more storefronts to go to. You can go to Best Buy, GameStop, and pick up a disc, and sometimes they'll have deals where the digital storefronts don't. So it gives you more option. It gives you more control as a user, because digital, there's always that possibility that they take it off the storefront, or they shut down the online servers for it. Physical just gives you that one little extra layer of control as a consumer. That's always a good thing, and at the very least, it should always be an option. 90% of people could buy digital, but we should have as many options as possible. That's not a bad thing. So this trying to get rid of all physical discs, I cannot stand it. I will never support it, and it's just a complete L. And that's just it. That's just the way it is. And then also, the other thing I'm pretty sure on is that it's going to be very expensive. I don't know the exact price, but I'm willing to bet it will be over $1,000, because I'm expecting this to be a PC. And PCs are expensive. Now, I don't expect it to be the high-end $2,000, $3,000. I just expect it to be at least $1,000. And it'll probably be almost double the price of a PS6. So those are the two L's I think that is going to come from this next Xbox for sure, is the price and the all-digital. All these other questions are up in the air. But knowing the fact that the price is going to be expensive, it's not going to have physical discs, all those other questions better hit. They better be the W's that, I'm kind of expecting. I expect them to have the multiple storefronts. I'm expecting them to have the backwards compatibility where you can play your games, your full library natively on this next Xbox. And I'm expecting, the openness of the PC platform. I'm also... The one question I didn't mention yet, probably the most interesting of it all, is will Sony block their games that are on Steam right now from going to this next Xbox? That is one of the big questions, because there's something to be said about, hey, I got an Xbox and I could play Spider-Man, I could play God of War on it, especially since Xbox has been putting all their games on PlayStation, and that's kind of been a talking point recently. So that'll be an interesting one. But all I can say is it better have all of those things if it's going to be over $1,000 and there's going to be no physical disc. That's all I'm going to say about that. So this next Xbox is a very interesting situation. Next generation of consoles should be very interesting, and I am very excited for it. Unlike a lot of these other people that are saying it's too early, this generation hasn't started, blah, 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 bunch of bullshit. You know what? You just have selective memory. You just have revisionist history, because look at the past compared to now. We are eating so good right now with the games. We've had a great generation, despite what all these bullshitters and haters been saying. I'm sorry, it is what it is. And lastly, let me just say, when it comes to which console I will be getting next generation, it's pretty obvious. I'm getting the PlayStation 6. As much as I am interested about what Xbox is doing, I'm always going to be on the console side. And I'm always going to be on the PlayStation side until they completely fuck up. PlayStation has always focused on quality and the quality of their games, and they focused on physical disc and owning your games, and that's what I want to do. I want them to take their time and make an amazing game and release a couple of those a year, and meanwhile we get all the third-party games, and we get physical disc, and we get that great console experience. So you know for a fact, I'm getting the PS6. There's no doubt about it. I'm not hating on what Xbox is trying to do. I'm just curious. I'm just interested. But PlayStation is where I'm at. It's most likely always where I'm going to be at. So PS6 is for me, and I'm hyped to get it, hopefully in 2028. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will be back soon with more videos. See you later.